Hello everyone, welcome back once again to the kitchen. Today on Cooking with Rev, we're going to make taco bake. At least that's what the recipe calls it. I don't know what you officially call it. Uh, it's kind of like a taco casserole type of thing. You'll see as we get going. So let's flip our camera around as usual and take a look at what ingredients and tools we're going to need. Alright, so today we're going to obviously need some tortilla shells. You'll need approximately 3 to 4, I'm going to say 3. The recipe calls for 8-inch ones. I don't have any 8-inch. I already had this pack of 10-inch, 12-inch, whatever you want to call them. I don't think it actually says on this pack. Doesn't say. I think they're 12s. But normally you would want the slightly smaller ones. I do have like some little 6-inch ones, but I'd rather have a bigger course, so I'm using these ones. I will have to modify them to fit my pan slightly, and I'll show you that as we start going. Next up, we're going to need some ground beef. I got 2 packs here because I'm going to be making a larger version of this. You'll only need about a pound for the basic recipe. An onion, as usual. Some taco seasoning. Again, I got 2 envelopes here because I got 2 packages of that. Normally you would just need the 1. You will also need some salsa con carne. I usually prefer paste. Unfortunately, someone got into this one, so I got this other one, which is on the border. There was one brand that I got one time I didn't really like, but obviously you can use whatever you like. I like paste because it's creamier. This one I haven't actually tried before, but we'll see how it goes. You also need some diced tomatoes. Like I said, I got these on sale the other day. And I got 2 cans just because I'm not sure how many I'm going to need, because like I said, I am making an upscaled version of this. You'll also need your Mexican cheese blend. I got 2 packs. Get 2 packs of this even if you're making the smaller version. It only calls for 2 cups of cheese. I usually end up using slightly more. So I usually get 2 packs just so I make sure I got enough. I'll probably actually be short on this recipe, but if I am, I got a large bag of shredded cheddar cheese that I'll just use to fill in. You'll also need some Fritos. These aren't in the recipes, neither are the tomatoes, but I like to add them for texture and flavor. Because the first time I made this, I made it exactly as the recipe called for, and it just really didn't have any texture to it. It was just like a really cheesy glob just sliding down my throat. So make it slightly different now. This is my own modified recipe, so I add some Fritos. It doesn't have to be the scoops. I just got some scoops because I figure there'll be some left over, and if I have any of this stuff left over, which I shouldn't, then I'll have something to dip. Otherwise, I'll just have some Frito scoops. And some Ortega sauce, or salsa, whichever you prefer. You really don't need this. It's not called for in the recipe. I'm just going to add it this time because why not? And you'll need a baking pan. Now, this is my normal aluminum cake pan. Excuse all the scratches in it. It's about 10 years old, but it still works. Now, normally the recipe would call for a like round 8 to 10 inch cake pan. They look something like this, but metal. And as you can see, they got some depth to them. I was just going to use this, but I want to make a larger version of this, and my tortilla shells don't fit in this, which I'll show you in a minute. So like I said, they're not going to fit in here either because they're round and this is square. So we're going to have to make some modifications. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, one other item you're going to need is a frying pan to brown up your meat, because you want to do that ahead of time. Ignore the water in there, I just washed it out. You're going to want to set your heat probably about a medium high, maybe medium. This oven cooks a little, or stove cooks a little bit differently, so I'd use a little bit higher, but normally on my old one I would have had it like down on the medium heat, so I'm slightly between medium and medium high. So we're going to let this heat up. Usually once you see that water evaporate, you'll know you're ready to start cooking, and then it'll be time to put in our ground beef and brown it up. But first, let's cut up our onion because that's going to go in with it. Okay, so again, I'm just going to cut up an onion here. You guys have seen me do this before if you've watched my other cooking videos. If not, then you're going to see me cut it up now. Let's see if I can cut it up right. I could actually save myself some time and just cut it up off camera and just reuse the old footage of me cutting, but I like to do things the way they actually are. So what you want to do is cut off the bottom and cut off the top little nubs, just like that. You want to cut into the side a little bit not too much, just about the width of your blade. And you just want to peel off that very outer rind. That'll take all that nasty skin stuff with it. And the outer layer is actually the toughest layer of the onion, which is usually the hardest to cut if you're using a chopper. And see, as you're pulling that away, there's actually a very thin membrane right there. You want to get all that too. But yeah, so that's actually the toughest layer to actually cut, even if you were to take all the time to peel all that skin off. So if you're using a chopper, that'll probably be where your chopper gets stuck. In the meantime, there we have our nice clean onion. Now, as I said before, always cut away from yourself. Don't draw the knife back towards you as you're cutting, because that allows the spray to get up in your eyes. And that's when you start having those issues with tears, which I'm already having a very slight issue with, but that's because I held this real close to my face when I was cutting that line. Okay, so now what you want to do is you're going to make vertical cuts, again away from yourself, approximately most of the way through the onion, not all the way. You can let the tip touch, but don't let the back edge touch, if that makes sense. So as you can see, the tip cut, but look how high up the back end still is. That's about what you want. So you're just going to do that to the middle of the onion. And once you get to the middle, you see you're real close to your fingers now. So rather than sit here and have to keep pulling your fingers back like this, just rotate the onion. Real simple. Then you just start back from the corner doing the exact same thing. Once you get back into the center here, you do have to be very careful of your fingers. So just get like one down the center there. Now you give it a quarter turn. So now, where you were cutting this way before, all those lines are now going this way, as you can see. Now you're going to do the same thing going this way. As you can see, it's getting a little loose from where I'd cut it. Again, I pulled towards myself, which I told myself not to do. Give it a full turn, or a half turn, whatever you want to call it. Same thing. Sorry if I'm bumping the camera while doing this. Trying not to. Don't be afraid to reposition your fingers, just be very careful not to cut yourself, because as you can see, I'm starting to get into the part of the onion where I've already cut. Okay, so now, as you can see, you got this nice little grid pattern. Now you tip it up on its side, and then you're just going to run your knife right down like this. Again, try not to saw it like that, just try and get a nice solid cut. But you might have to pull it back towards yourself a little bit in this instance. As you can see, everything's coming off all nice and diced up. Again, just try and do it very slowly. Try not to draw it towards yourself too hard. And just cut right down until you get to the part where you haven't cut through, which I still got quite a bit. Or until it does that. So there's some onion rings you can set aside for a minute. And now I can't hold on to it because all the juice is all over the place. So again, just keep chopping at it until, once you get down to here, if you have to make a couple more cuts to get it to cut all the way through, go ahead. Because those last couple didn't look all that chopped up to me, and I'm starting to get the juices into my eyes, which I hate. And at this point, you can probably just cut all the way through once you get down here. Make the other incisions, then when you're doing this way, just go ahead and cut it all the way through. And as you can see, it's pretty much diced up. I don't know if I'll show you guys that full process again in this video, because I did show it to you in a previous video, but why not? And then just cut this up and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to finish this up, and then our pan should be heated. We'll get the meat on to brown. Okay, so our pan is now heated. As you can see, all that water I had in there from rinsing out has evaporated. So we're going to get our meat going. Now, I am using a rather large pan because I am doing 2 packs of this. These are each just under 1.5 pounds, so it's about 2 to 3 pounds. We'll say 2 just to be safe. So there our first one goes in. As you can see, there's plenty of room over here for the other one. going to open that one up as well, and right into the pan it goes. And then we bring over our diced up onion and right into the pan. I'm going to go ahead and use the full onion. It's about a medium-sized onion. It might be too much, but it's going to be in with other stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Normally I'd use about half an onion if you're only using a 1 pound, but since I'm using 2 to 3 pounds, I'm going to use the full onion. Then as usual, I'm just going to use my handy dandy mashing tool if you don't have one of these. Actually, you know, I got a potato masher. I'm going to show you guys what those look like too, but you can also use a normal spatula. But yeah, so basically, I'm just going to mash all this up, get it all nice and browned up. Some of this is still a little frozen because I took it out a little bit later than I planned, but I should still be able to separate it fairly well. We want to get these onions mixed up in there the best we can without throwing them all over the floor like I just did. And unfortunately I don't have a lid that fits this pan, but I do want to put a lid on it so it can brown evenly. So I'm going to see what I can find to cover this pan with, and we'll let this brown up. Okay kids, so while we're waiting for the meat to brown up, I am going to alter my tortilla shells like I said. So let's get a few of those out. Like I said, the recipe does call for approximately 3 of these. I'm probably going to end up using quite a few just because I got to fill that pan. So as I was saying, as you can see, these are way too large for that bowl. They don't sit down in them. I could just trim around the edge to make them fit, but instead, if I'm going to do all that trimming, let's go big or go home. And let's see, we're just going to try to square these up a bit. They don't really need too much trimmed off lengthwise. So it's mostly just like this edge and a little bit over on this edge, but I'm not going to worry too much about this edge just because I can layer them. But what I don't want is these little pockets in the corner. So I'm going to do is pull it towards me a bit until those pockets kind of disappear, like so. I'm just going to make a fold there, and that'll be my line for where I'm going to cut. Now you can do it on the sides as well, like so. As you can see, that's not that much. This side I'm not going to worry about because I'm going to end up overlapping, but there I have my lines for where I need to cut. And again, don't cut on the counter like I'm about to do because you'll get skinned by your parents. So I got my cutting board here just so I don't get in trouble, and we just want to follow our line right here. Real simple like. Pull this aside. I'll figure out something to do with these just so we're not wasting them. Turn this way, just very thin on this side, like so, and very thin right there, down this side, like so. Now once we've done that, it should fit back in our pan perfectly, which it does. Okay, so I'm going to do this with a few more taco shells. What I'm going to do now, since I have a template, I'm going to need approximately 6 of these. So I'm going to do is lay the rounded corner where it lines up with the other corner that's still round. There you go, now I got my shape I need to cut. Except that doesn't quite look right to me for some reason, because these aren't all the exact same shape. But we're going to be fairly close, so we'll just figure it out as we go. Apparently this one was slightly bigger than that one. But you can use a template and cut them up, and then, or if you want to stick with putting them in the pan and figuring it out, go for it, because there we are again. Right? Alright, so I'm going to do these 6 and then I will be back. Okay, so I've got my 6 cut, and I did figure out what I want to do with these little half pieces. As you can see, we still got gaps right there, so what I'm probably going to do is, as I'm doing this, just kind of turn these over and stuff them into the corners like that, just so you got a nice even square all the way around. So one there and one, well, not really over there. You can use the smaller pieces maybe right there, or just use the big one just so it's even all the way across. But yeah, you basically want a nice flat bottom like that. So now I'm going to set these aside, go check on our meat, see where we're at with that, and we will be on to the next step. Okay kids, so I ended up having to cover this giant pan with a pizza tray. That's how big this is. So as you can see, it is starting to brown up. I'm going to give it a few more minutes. Something with the weird lighting in here. It looks like it's still pink even though it's not. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to again preheat our oven to 350 degrees. It'll be ready in 6 minutes. I did already take the pans out, so the oven is clear and ready to be heated. Alright, so while that's going, we're going to finish browning up this meat, and I'll show you guys how to assemble this. Okay, and while we're waiting for the meat to finish browning, we're going to go ahead and open up our cans of diced tomatoes because we want to drain the juice out of this. So I'm going to open these, dump them into a strainer in the sink, and then just kind of let them sit for a few minutes and get all the juice out of them, because we just want the whole tomatoes. We don't want all that runniness in our baking dish. So as you can see, there is quite a bit of fluid in here, and we don't want that. So over to the sink here, we have our strainer, and we're just going to dump the can into here, just like that, and the other one, like so, and just kind of let all that juice run out of the bottom. So you want just the tomato bits, not all the gooiness. I probably should save this because I could have used it in something, but who cares, right? We buy things for one specific meal. As you can see, it is going down quite a bit. This is where we were, this is where we are. So you just want to give them a little shake until most of that juice is out and you're left with just the tomato chunks. Now you can see we're down quite a bit more. And I think that's pretty good. So we're just going to let this, we're going to rinse out the sink first of all. Get rid of all that juice that just came out of there. And then we're just going to let these sit in here and continue to drain while I check on the meat. Okay, so now I've got a bowl that I'm going to put our diced tomatoes in. Try not to spill too many of them. Like so. Then the strainer is going to go back in the sink because it's just about time to drain the grease off of our meat. Except I might need my bigger strainer, so I'm going to find that and swap these out. Okay, so I found my slightly bigger strainer, so we're going to dump the meat in here very carefully and get all the grease drained out of it. You don't really want to run your grease down the sink. So if you got like an empty coffee can or something, you can set this on to collect the grease. That's actually better. I don't have one, so this time it's going down the sink, sorry. And that's our oven ready, done preheating. So here we have all of our wonderful meat. Again, just very carefully scoop it out into the strainer. Try and get all that grease out of there. Be careful those ones rolling down the back because they'll dump everything everywhere. It's exactly the same as every other time you guys have seen me brown meat, except I'm doing it on a larger scale this time. Okay, so there's still quite a few onions and whatnot in there. That's alright. I'm going to put this back on the stove, let some of that grease cook off while this meat in the strainer drains out. Okay, so as you can see, our pan is still on. You can see the crackling and everything. What we want to do now is add our meat back in here. I'm just trying to let some of that grease cook off a little bit first so it's not real greasy when we put the meat back in. And we're just going to dump our meat right back in there once all the grease is strained off of it. Like so. You're going to hear it sizzle. Now I think we're done with the meat masher here, so we actually want a normal spatula, like so. And before this starts to stick too bad, you want to add in your 2 envelopes of taco seasoning and however much water it calls for on the direction. Each one calls for 3/4 of a cup. So that would be just under 2 cups, half a cup. So a cup and a half of water is what we're going to need. My math is right. You take 1/3 from 3, or 1/4 from 3 quarter. That's 2/4, which is a half. Yeah. So once this is all in here, we need 1.5 cups of water. So here's our 1 cup and our half a cup. Alright, now we're just going to give this a stir. Now you can hear it stop sizzling because we got that water in there. And mix in all of our taco seasoning until it's all evenly coated. Apparently that cooled down the pan quite a bit because it ain't sizzling at all or boiling yet. For some reason it doesn't seem like I have enough taco seasoning in there to cover all this, but it'll work. No big deal. So once it's all evenly coated like that, what does it say to do? Let it sit for like 5 minutes or something. Stir in seasoning, mix in water, bring to boil, reduce heat, and simmer for 5 minutes. Okay, so that's back to a simmer. We're going to reduce our heat down from, I had it on 6, I'm going to move it down to 4, and we're just going to let that run for about 5 minutes. Or basically when the water is all evaporated, so since I'm doing 2 packs with more meat and more water, it might take twice as long, so maybe 10 minutes, but whenever you see all the water is evaporated and it's not doing that anymore, and you can do that and there's no pooling, then you know it's ready. Do stir it occasionally just to make sure it's all evenly coated before you run out of the water. And once that's ready, we'll be back. Alright guys, so as you can see here, most of the liquid has absorbed. There are a few little pockets of bubbles there. So it's just about done, maybe another minute or two. But now I'm going to get on to the next step. You are going to need 1 cup, or for each pound it's half a cup, but since I did almost 3 pounds, I'm going to do 1 cup of your salsa con queso, which means salsa with cheese, or cheese salsa, whatever you want to call it. I think I said con carne earlier, which is meat. Not queso is cheese, carne is meat, so this is salsa con queso of cheese. Okay, so we're going to want approximately, this is a little bit runnier than the other one was, probably because it's been sitting out at room temperature, but you're going to want just about 1 cup, like so, and there's still a little bit left in there, so if I need another half a cup or so, that's fine. What I'll probably do is end up using up the rest of the paste one. Instead of mixing the two together, I'll just add the paste to this as well. So you're going to do that, and you want to get your spoon and get all the goodness out of the bottom, like so, like that. And then, like I said, I'm just going to dump the rest of what's in the paste jar, which isn't very much, maybe another 2 tablespoons or so into there as well. So as you can see, it's already empty, and that was maybe a tablespoon. I didn't want to just leave it sitting around, so there we have that. And we still got about half a jar or so, like I said. I don't think we're going to need any more than that, so I'm going to set this aside so I got something to eat with my chips later. And now you just want to stir all that in until it's evenly coated over the meat. Like I said, if you need a little bit more, add maybe another half a cup or so, but you shouldn't need too much. You don't want to overdo it with the cheese because you're going to have a lot of cheese in the dish to begin with. You just want to basically evenly coat all of your meat mixture with a little bit of cheese. Until it looks roughly about like that. It looks darker on this side, that's just my lighting, unfortunately. As you can see, as I push it over, it's the same color. Okay, so you're going to let that reheat for a couple minutes just to heat up that cheese sauce. And then we'll be on to the next step. Okay, so while our meat mixture is finishing up, we want to get our pan prepped, so we're going to need a little bit of our baking spray or just a little bit of butter or something, oil of some sort around the bottom. just to prevent them from sticking later when you're trying to get this stuff out, like so. And around the edges briefly, like that. Not too much, but I probably overdid it. That'll probably be way too much. So now that we got that done, we're going to go ahead and lay down our first layer of tortilla shells. So we got that one going that way, this one going this way, and then I'm going to throw in a couple of our little side pieces like I said. So there's that. Now we lay a layer of our meat mixture over top of this. Alright, so what we're going to do is just take a helping spoonful of our meat mixture, a couple of those, and just kind of lay them down in here. Spread it around a bit. Okay guys, sorry about that. For some reason the phone stopped recording yet again. I need to see if there's a way I can add more space to this so I don't have to go dump everything off of it every couple minutes. So I don't know how much you saw before it cut off, but I laid down our first layer of tortillas, and then I laid down a couple spoonfuls, anywhere between, if you're doing 1 pound, you only want to use maybe 2 to 3 because you want to have enough to do a couple layers of this. I ended up using roughly 5. And it's real thinly spread out. As you can see here in the pan, I still got enough to do one more layer. So you want basically about half of what you got, spread it out the best you can, and I'll show you that again on the next layer. Then you want to take your shredded cheese, and these bags are kind of small, I can barely get my hand in them, but yeah, just grab a pinch and just kind of sprinkle it around until you have a nice even coat. We'll just do this. And then give that a little spread out. Still need a bit more. Okay. That doesn't look too bad, but I know I'm going to need a little bit more because I want to have a decent layer on top. So as I said before, I do have this larger bag of cheddar cheese. So I'm going to add just a pinch or so in here as well, just to fill out the corners, like so. Not too much. Okay, now at this point, if you still had the other half of your onion and you wanted to chop it up and dice it up, sprinkle a little bit of onion on there. There is onion in the meat, but it has been tenderized from the cooking. So if you want that little bit of texture, that crunch, some raw onions, go ahead and put those in now. I don't have that because I use the entire onion in the meat mixture, and I don't want to chop up another half of onion. Next step, take your tomatoes, grab a handful of those, and just kind of sprinkle them around on top. I probably didn't need both jars, but what the hell. I'll find something to use them in, right? And as long as I know I got an extra jar, I can actually be a little bit more generous with them. So something kind of about like that. That should be good. As you can see, there's still quite a bit of juice in there, so I'm going to drain that off real quick. Okay. So you can see I got most of that, so set the rest of those aside. Now, for the next step, like I said, the first time I tried this, there wasn't really much texture to it. It just kind of tasted like a big glob of cheese sliding down my throat, so now I add the tomatoes to it, one for flavor. And then I add these for the texture. Like I said, you can also add the onions for texture. But since I don't feel like chopping up another onion, I'm just going to grab a small little pinch of my Fritos here. Put them in the palm of your hand, just crush them up. Like that. You don't want them too fine. You don't want to, you know, just kind of chunks like that. And then just kind of sprinkle them around. I'm going to do a little bit more. Just sprinkle them around until you got a nice amount of coverage on there. Might do one more. On a smaller version of this, this would be more than enough. But I see where I still got a few bare spots over here. So there we go, there's that. Now, the next step, again, this part's not in the recipe, this is just something I do again for flavor. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. But this is where I like to add my Ortega. Like I said, you can also use salsa if you prefer salsa, but you got the tomatoes in there, so salsa, again, would be kind of watery. Probably drain it, and then you could actually have the peppers from that in instead of the tomatoes. But if not, then just take your Ortega and just do a very fine little drip, just like that. Alright, now, layer 2. Take our next tortilla shell, put it there. Take our next one, put it over there. Take our 2 little half sides, put them like that. Now give it a press. That'll also help you space out your meat and your cheese. And like I said, you do want to get another layer in here, so you want it kind of thin. Alright, now I'm going to scoop out the remainder of our meat mixture. Just all over the place like that. Probably going to use up the remainder of this and just kind of dump it into the pan. What the hell? Like that. Get all the little good bits out of there that you can. And once that's all gone, you're left with something that looks like this. Give it a nice little spread. As much as you can. I probably could have went 1 spoonful less on the previous layer, which is usually the case. And then I would have had some more to fill in this little corner here that I don't have enough to really fill in properly right now. If it's real heavy on one side, pull it to the other side like that. But you don't want it to be too thin, like right there you can see the tortillas. And just kind of space it out evenly across like that. There, now you actually saw that step, unlike the last time when the video cut off. Now, for this layer I'm going to use mostly the cheddar cheese. Like I said, if you're doing a larger batch like this, pick up a 3rd bag of the shredded cheese. I didn't really think about it, but since I got all this cheddar cheese, I'm just going to use it instead. Like so. Like so. Okay, and then just give that a nice spread around. A little bit more there, like that. That should be good. Then what was our next step? Onions if you got them. Tomatoes. I'm going to try to use up the rest of these tomatoes just to get rid of them because I don't really have anything else to put them in as far as cooking, and I don't really just want to have them sit in the fridge. Like I said, you can use them kind of sparingly because you got plenty. 1 jar or 1 can probably would have been more than enough for this, but yeah. So there we go. Got enough tomatoes on there and our bowl's empty. Now, next step, as usual, oops, more of our Fritos. Crush them up. Sprinkle them around. Gives you that good crunch. Like so. That actually looks like it's got pretty good coverage there. I might do a little tiny bit more, just that much. I did drop one on the floor, so I'll have to find that. And just kind of fill in. Like I said, the mozzarella or the Mexican blended cheese is more white, so you can actually see a little bit better where your coverage is as opposed to this. Okay, so now we got that layer done. Next tortilla shell, right on the top. Last one right on the top there. We should have 2 more little cornery pieces there and there. Again, give it a small press down just to make sure everything's going to fit into your pan. Okay, now the reason I ended up using the cheddar cheese in the center layer instead of the Mexican blend, because I do still have another bag of Mexican blend, because I'm probably going to need most of it for right here. You're going to put cheese all over the top. Don't throw it all over the counter like I just did. Yeah, I'm going to end up needing this whole bag for up here. So you got a Mexican blend, cheddar in the middle, and then Mexican blend again. And I'm probably not even going to have enough of the Mexican blend right there. So we're going to grab more of our cheddar blend. Or blend, it's not even a blend. Just going to kind of fill out the gaps, like so. I really wasn't planning on using all of the cheddar cheese, but it looks like I'm going to use the majority of it here. Make sure it's all packed all the way around. This is going to melt a bit, but that's alright. Okay, so there you have it. Now if you want to sprinkle some more of the crushed up Fritos on top here, you can. Or you can just kind of lay them around if you want. I'm not going to. There's enough of them inside for the crunch that I'm going for. Okay, so now that we're done with that, we're going to pop this in the oven for about 20 minutes or so. Oh, you know what? I missed a layer of the Ortega inside. Sorry, that should have gone on to the next layer as well, on the under layer as well. We can drizzle a little bit of it on top if you want. I'll probably just put some on top after it's done cooking, just kind of for flavor. But yeah, this should have gone into that middle layer underneath the tortillas as well. Actually, you know what? I could lift up the tortillas and do it, but it would make a mess. And I don't want to waste all that cheese. So, yeah. Should have been another layer of Ortega underneath this blanket of cheese. I screwed up. It happens. Simple mistake. Alright, so we're going to pop this in the oven for about 20 minutes until the cheese is all melted and golden brown. Then we're going to take it out, let it rest for a few minutes, and then we'll eat. So pop this in the oven. I'll see you guys in 20. Okay guys, it's been about 15 minutes. I know I said 20, but we're going to take a quick look at it just to see how it's going. As you can see, the cheese is all melted. It's starting to toast. I'm going to give it that remaining 5 minutes that I said, just to be safe. I was going to let it cook a little bit longer, but I don't think we're going to need it. Just because it is larger than normal. I was going to give it like an extra 10 minutes just to fully cook all the way through. I really don't think we're going to need it. So I'm going to give it 5 more minutes and then we'll take it out and go from there. Alright guys, so I did give it an extra 5 minutes, just taking a look at it here. Looking pretty good. You can hear it bubbling, so I think it's ready to come out. So let's take this out of here. Alright guys, so there it is out of the oven. I don't know if you can see, but the cheese is starting to toast around the edge. There's little bubbles coming up from the cheese on the lower layers. So it is done. I gave it an extra 5 minutes, so like 25 minutes. If I would have left in there the extra another 5 to give it a full 30, it would have been fine. But as you can see, the cheese is starting to brown a little bit, which is actually what you want. So another 5 probably would have been fine. But I don't want it to be too burned to the bottom, or I don't want to get it too stuck to the bottom of the pan. And as I can see around the edge, it is starting to toast a little bit. So that kind of tells me what it's doing on the bottom as well. But yeah, another 5 minutes wouldn't have been bad. It would have just toasted the cheese up a little bit more, like you see in this dark area here. But it's done. So we're going to let it sit for 5-10 minutes just to re-solidify everything, bring the temperature down a little bit so we don't burn our mouths when we eat it. So 10 minutes, I'll be back. We'll cut it up and serve it up, and then you guys can actually see me eat it. One other thing, like I said, if you would have had the diced up onion, if you would have wanted to throw a little bit more of those on the top layer as well, you could have. If you would have still had a few extra tomatoes because you went light on the first 2 layers, you could have put those on the top. Could have crushed up more of the chips and put those on top too. Could have drizzled a little bit more of the Ortega on top. It's up to you guys how you want to make it. The top layer, I usually just leave it cheese or cheese and onion if I do have the extra onion. Wasn't really thinking about it ahead of time, so I didn't cut up an extra one. But yeah, so that's it. We're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes, plate it up, and we'll be back. Alright everyone, so it's been about 10-15 minutes or so. I was working on some other stuff, so I kind of just let it sit for a little while. It's not 100% cool, but I can actually touch the pan now without burning myself, as you can. I mean, it's still a little warm. I wouldn't put my hand on there for too long, but it's cool enough to handle now. So now we're going to cut into it, see what it looks like inside. Now remember, we did have those overlaying layers in the center, so I'm going to try and center right along that cut. You just want to saw through it. Take your time. You don't want to mush it down or anything like that. Okay. Make sure you're all the way through, even the bottom layer, so it doesn't stick to anything else. Okay. I'm going to do each one of these into halves. Is this the first time I've ever let you guys see me actually cut up the food, or have I done it before? I don't remember. You know, I'm going to half this side. No, I did let you guys see me cut up something else, didn't I? I don't remember what it was. Okay, so we're all cut up this way. Now we're going to rotate it, if we can. Ooh, I lost a Frito out of the center. Now, instead of going down the center on this one, I'm going to go slightly off center and we're going to third it. Then one more over here, again, just off center to create a third. Okay, and then we're just going to lightly go around the outside edge just to separate it from the pan all the way around. Try not to destroy it too much. Basically just so we don't fight it when we're trying to take some out of the pan. Now we need a plate. Again, I'm going to go to my little half bowl, half plates, and take our spatula from earlier, which I did wash and just set back out so I could reuse it. Now, where do we want to dive in at? I'm going to go right about here to the corner piece. Again, just kind of run your spatula down all the way to the bottom of the pan. Make sure you got a good separation. Like so. Run it down the walls. Like so. I'm going to come into it from this side, pushing towards the wall. The spatula is actually a bit big for what I cut. And we're going to do just like that. And there we have it. And now, just for my own personal preference, since I didn't put any sauce on the second layer, I'm just going to drizzle a small amount over top of it. About that much. Don't overdo it. If you have the 2 layers, you probably don't even need that because there would be more than enough in there. Or at this point, I probably could have peeled off the top layer and put it under there where it belonged. But we're just going to run it this way. Alright guys, so trying a little bit of a different thing for the ending here today. I'm sitting here at the table. Excuse the selfie stick. Unfortunately, it's a necessity for this angle. So I'm actually going to let you guys start seeing me eat things, hopefully. Hopefully I'm in shot. I'm not too cut off. It's hard to get a good angle on this. So let's dig in and see how this tastes. So obviously everything just kind of smushed down on me. We're going to get us a good bite here. Definitely tastes like a good taco. Didn't really get much of that crunch that I was expecting in that one. Apparently the scoop Fritos, got a little bit soft in the baking. They haven't done that before, which is a little weird. The cheddar cheese I'm not too sure about. Definitely better with more of the Mexican blend. But like I said, if you're making a smaller version of this, the 2 bags should be more than enough. I knew I was going to run short, but I had the other bag of cheddar, so we're making it work. But it would definitely taste better with more of the Mexican blend. Everything else in this is good. One other thing that you could do if you don't want to get the toast, if you don't want to get the Fritos to put into it, you can actually heat the tortillas before you put them into the baking dish. I haven't made it yet, but I'm probably going to make another video on making like a quesadilla. So if you watch that, just kind of follow those same instructions for browning the tortillas and apply it to this before you put them into the oven. That'll also give you a nice crispiness to it, because as you heat tortillas, they harden and become more chip-like. So you could do that with this as well. I didn't want to take the time to do it because I'm already running behind. But yeah, this is definitely as good as I remember. So one more bite. It does actually have some texture to it this time, unlike the last time, or the first time I made it when I didn't have all the tomatoes and chips and everything. It was just this big glob of cheesy flavor just sliding down my throat real easy. And even though it tasted good, I really didn't enjoy it that way. Where this way I actually enjoy it. And once you add some stuff to it, get a little bit more flavor. Like I said, the original recipe doesn't actually call for all that stuff, but I added it as my own preference. Like I said, maybe you guys will send me a recipe. I'll try it once and be like, you know what? I'm going to change this up. I'm going to add this to it because I wasn't real fond of it that way. It happens sometimes. So there you have it, guys. That is it for this episode of Cooking with Rev, which I actually might have a new name for this coming up, but I'm not sure. I was thinking about it the other day. Basically, I wasn't real happy with the get out of the kitchen closing, and I actually came up with a new closing, which I'm going to use today, and it may end up becoming the new name of the show. So that is it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, if you make this dish, send me photos or comment what you think about it. Once I start getting photos from people that are actually doing this stuff, I'll start putting them in the video somewhere and mention you guys by name, give you guys a little shout out. But yeah, so if you try this, send me photos or just leave a comment down below. Hey, I tried it, it was awesome. Hey, I would add this to it. You can basically put anything you would put in a taco into this. If you guys are fans of sour cream, put some sour cream in it. Like right now at the end, you can put a dab of sour cream on there, it'd be great. I'm not a big sour cream fan, so I leave it off mine. But yeah, let me know what you guys would do, or if you've tried it, let me know. Send me photos, again, for the third time now. But that is it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, rate, subscribe, share the video. I need to stop saying rate. I've been trying to break myself with that because there's no way to rate the video other than thumbs up or thumbs down, which is liking the video. So like, comment, subscribe, share the video. If you know someone who likes cooking, might like this recipe, share it with them. Links to all my social medias are down, or social networks are down there in the description and up in one of these corners at the lower right hand corner of the channel banner. And until next time, everybody, get cooking. What do you guys think? Like that one better than get out of the kitchen? Let me know. Comments below. Alright, get cooking.